Our guest today, Sridhar Vembu, built Zoho from a Tamil Nadu village into a billion-dollar global SaaS force. Now, Aratai, his homegrown messaging app, has gone viral. In this episode, we talk to Vembu about rural innovation, tech nationalism, and what does it mean to be the face of India's Atmanirbhar Bharat story. It's a great moment for Zoho. I think what has happened in the last 15 days or 1 month, so to speak. I think it's a culmination of years of hard work that you and the team has put together. Uh, how do you feel at this moment?
First of all, thank you for having me. Vanakkam. Yes, it is really good to get the vindication. And at the same time, I also say, and I say this both internally and outside, it's a milestone in a still very long journey. We still have a long way to go, but it's a really good to be here at this moment and get that vindication. That's how I would say it. Yeah.
Right. Do you want to sort of start by recalling a little bit about your early days, Mr. Vembu? The early days of Zoho, how the company started.
My brother Kumar started this here. He returned from, we were both together in Qualcomm in San Diego. I'm talking about 95. And we talk about, hey, India does not have a brand to call its own. We see Japanese brands, we see Korean brands, and we are seeing made in Taiwan appearing. But where is made in India, right? So that's when he decided to return. That was in November 95. That is really the genesis of this company. And along the way, actually, my co founder, Tony Thomas, left his job in New Jersey and he started his own company then. Those came together in about 96. And I only joined in actually in 97 beginning. So there is a gap of about a year and a half where these efforts were going on and first product got shipped. Then Tony asked me for help. Hey, can you help market this software? And I happened to be sitting in Silicon Valley at that time. I was doing some other work at that time. I was doing consulting work from among other companies, division of Cisco at that time. And then he said, "Can you help market this?" So I left that and I joined Tony to help market the software. That is how it got started.
Right, right. Do you also want to talk about the entire SaaS movement that was started, or Zoho was one of the biggest players in the entire SaaS movement that happened out of India. I think a lot of companies also came out of Zoho, like Freshworks, and then became very big part of, like I said, the SaaS movement. Take us through that.
Yeah. SaaS itself in Zoho got, I mean, our what became Zoho, the company got started in SaaS in 2004-5 timeframe. Very early days of SaaS. It was not yet common, but we had observed already that it's a good way to work, get work done. So, in fact, if you look at our first tagline, when you first announced Zoho, it was work dot online. So, work online was the theme then. It was back in 2005. And we started investing. We knew it would take a while to produce profit. In fact, that division, the Zoho division, actually took about 6 years, 7 years to even produce meaningful revenue. Until then, it was funded by our software as product, install product division, manage engine, and the previous telecom software. All of that was funding this. But the SaaS, we knew SaaS is the way things were heading. We were investing, but it was till about 2011 or 12 when first real meaningful revenue was clocked. And then it has steadily grown from there. That is also when a lot of the VCs picked up on the Zoho ecosystem,
Sure.
started funding companies. That was about 2010, I believe. So that's when the VCs arrived in the SaaS ecosystem in a meaningful way in India. By then, we had already been building for about 5 years. So,
So, since you mentioned revenue, if I could quickly jump in here, about 46% of Zoho's revenue now comes from North America. I mean, more than India. So, if you could tell us, take us through how this came about, that'd be great.
Yeah, it is both US and Canada. North America means both US and Canada there. So, and it's, yeah, I don't remember the exact figure, but yeah, about 45, 46 might be a reasonable approximation. And this is, in fact, this is down from maybe it was 70% about 12 years ago. So it's down. That actually the reason is the rest of the world, including India, grew massively in that time, much faster. Today, our fastest growing markets are actually India and Middle East, neck to neck. Both are growing very fast, and then Latin America is also growing quite fast. So those three are some of our top growing markets now, and we are also seeing growth in rest of Asia, outside of India, and outside of India and China, we are seeing some good growth. So that is where the I see again it tracks the demographics. If you look at the countries where the population is relatively young, coming online, that's where we see the best growth. But at the same time, established economies also have large GDPs, so we're getting the our share of the revenue. Relatively small share, but we are getting some share of the revenue, and that's why the mix looks like that.
Right. How much is India right now? Since we are on that topic, I would like to know how much is India's
Then,
share and what is your long-term strategy?
about 10%, and might be growing to about 12% of our revenue share.
Right, right. Let me also ask you, since you mentioned about how you started off in Silicon Valley and you were working with big companies there and you decided to move back to India. So you challenged that sort of practice. And also, I think you went not just to the metros, but also to smaller towns and much smaller towns, in fact, villages. And you have your operations in places like Tenkasi. So, what is the thought process behind that? Tell us a little bit about that.
First of all, I came back only in 2019, and a couple of reasons. One, see, the ours is a very much driven by the talent. This is a talent business, and where is the talent coming from? Future talent. And demographically, if you look at rural India, that's where the talent is coming from. In fact, if you go to Bangalore, you go into any company, even a startup, you see where the talent, a lot of the engineers are coming from. They would not have been born in Bangalore. They would be from some small town from Tamil Nadu or Karnataka or Andhra, any of the states, could be Kerala, any of the states, but typically they are not from Bangalore itself. Right? You can see this. In fact, I was in Noida visiting a company recently. Most of the engineers were coming from, all the way from Odisha to, I saw engineers from Bihar, I saw from UP, all over the place, but definitely not born in the Delhi metro, most of them.
True.
So this is the reality of our talent pool in India. And then it's natural to ask, why don't we go to the source of where the talent is, right? For example, I mean, I'll give you a counter example to this. If you look at a US rural area, maybe you see it in Iowa or Kentucky or places like that, the
Sure.
population base is extremely small. For example, you go to rural East Texas, you have a population density of one person or two per square mile.
That's true. Absolutely.
I don't know that you can create a tech company out of there unless you have a plan to somehow persuade a lot of people to move there. But that's not true in anywhere in rural India. It's absolutely not true. You put a random, no, you drop a pin on the map in a random part of India, draw a 20, 30 kilometer radius, you're going to find about 3 to 5 lakh people easily. And that base gives us, some number of kids are born there. So there is a base. And with a suitable training and all of that, that could be, you know, come into the technology industry. So it is not, it's very rational calculation. You see the calculation involved here. And I said, because I want people to understand this. It's not just, oh, you can take a totally unpopulated area and you can persuade somebody to move. That was not the plan. There's already a lot of people there, and we ought to be able to find, nurture, create the talent there. That's the plan. That was the plan. Yeah.
Would you expand this model beyond Tenkasi? Is my question
Yes.
to you.
In fact, we have already expanded that model beyond Tenkasi. So I want to first contrast the Coimbatore and Mysore you mentioned against Tenkasi. The population base. Coimbatore is about a million, or maybe 1.5 million person city now. So is even Madurai is of that scale, while in fact much more than a million. Tenkasi is about a population, the town itself, the headquarters of the district, is about 75,000 people. So you get a order of magnitude difference there. Million, 2 million versus 75,000 people. That's the town. And now we are actually repeating this experiment in nearby district of Tirunelveli. We are also repeating it in somewhat of a rural, little further away from Madurai. Madurai is a big city, but the Madurai district still has a lot of rural pockets. We're repeating that. Even in the Coimbatore region, we are in a small place called Palladam, which is a small town, which is about maybe 40, 50 kilometers outside of Coimbatore. So we have that there. And Kumbakonam, which is a town, it's a bigger town. It's not the scale of the cities. For instance, not as well known, but that's where I'm from originally. Kumbakonam, we are actually have an office that has about 200, 300 employees and growing. So Karaikudi, you may have heard that's the heart of the Chettinad region of Tamil Nadu. In Karaikudi, we have an operation that has maybe about 40, 50 people. And then we have smaller dots on the map, like you will see in a place called Pera Urani, which nobody would have heard of outside of Tamil Nadu. Most people would not have heard of it. We have a development center, maybe about 30 people. So, and then even smaller dots. I mean, my native village near Kumbakonam, the village called Kurichi, we have about 30, 40 people now doing this. So, how do we select? So, we have done this in not just these bigger towns, not just, the 3 lakh population, 5 lakh. We are going down to smaller villages now. So, we are already, the Tenkasi experiment has gone further, much further. This is something, it's only constrained by, of course, do we have the leadership bandwidth to manage the location? Is somebody going to be there and somebody who's rooted there, somebody who wants to commit there? One thing we don't accept is you can remotely manage this. If the leadership layer is not willing to be there, then we won't look at that.
So, talking about the elephant in the room, Zoho has been in the news, in the spotlight for a while now. You've had union ministers endorse you, and I mean, from education to IT to every portfolio minister has endorsed Zoho. So, what distinguishes Zoho's suite of offerings from rivals like WhatsApp and Microsoft and everybody else? If you could just take us through that.
Well, what distinguishes first is it's made in India. And it's important today. Look, technology today, I draw a contrast between self sufficiency versus self reliance. That's important distinction. Self reliance means we are able to trade on equal terms with the world, that we have an equal exchange of value. For example, if we sell only rice paddy or we sell only petroleum, we buy all the complicated stuff. That's not, even if the trade balances, which often it doesn't, it's not it's not symmetrical trade. And the reason is that the technology could be weaponized against you. And a person who's buying rice can switch suppliers easily, but you are buying the iPhone, you cannot switch supplier easily. Very simple. So whoever controls the technology, let's face it, it is not only Apple or Google or Microsoft that's controlling the technology. Governments get in the picture necessarily today. That's the fact of the world. Whether you like it or not, that's a fact. So the technology can be weaponized against a country like India, and it has been done. It has been demonstrated to us. So that means that the technology has to be. That's where the Atmanirbhar, that whole idea of self-reliance comes in. We have to build it here. It has to be subject to Indian law, so that within India, the Indian laws can apply to that technology. And that's what distinguishes Zoho from an Indian perspective from other products. And secondarily, if you look at the international situation, you look at a third country like Mexico, and you look at other countries, they also face similar pressures. They also have technology weaponized against them. So they will evaluate, if we have to buy from somebody, who will weaponize the technology less against us, who is likely not to dictate terms to us. And that's an image India has developed over the years, right? We are a country that's not about to go and order people around. So that's another factor. So these are important today in the world of global geopolitics of trade. These are very important. And our image of India worldwide, you go to Mexico, you go to Colombia, you go to anywhere, you go to UAE, you get anywhere. It's one where Indians are respected, but we are not feared, nor do we dictate terms to anybody else. Now, our government is not doing it, which is why globally technology sources are needed that are not just in control of one country. That's really what it is.
So I think it was the IT secretary, Mr. Krishnan, who said that, it is not that, we're pushing products that are just made in India. We're pushing products that are best in class across the world. So how is Zoho addressing challenges like, end-to-end encryption and other challenges that it's seeing with Zoho people, etc., when users are comparing it to other OEMs and their offerings. So how is Zoho addressing these challenges?
Yeah. First of all, we, as I said, 90% of our business is earned outside India. Even within India, our revenue is predominantly private sector driven. We are earning our revenue in the open, wide open markets of the world. Our percentage of government revenue is actually small, quite small. So that's the first thing to understand. And the second point addresses itself. If we are not actually competitive globally, our products are not competitive, nobody has to buy them. Nobody is forced to buy them, right? Nobody will buy them. So we are earning our keep in the global markets every single day. And our market share has been growing. It's not just against Microsoft in India, it's actually outside too. We are winning major deals against Microsoft. And so that's why I'm confident about this. The second is you asked about end-to-end encryption. We actually have it. It's in right now in testing. In fact, this week it's being tested internally here, and we will have it soon, very soon. Now, it might show up in the app suddenly one day, one of these days. We don't know when. So
So, do you see this movement intensifying in the country? Because the way government of India is pushing, companies like Zoho or Map My India, who were always there, but sort of needed that push, not just to go. I mean, it's providing visibility not just in India but also internationally to your companies. So, do you expect this movement to continue? Do you think that things are going in the right direction? And what is happening at the government's end is actually helping you?
yes. So let's come back to this. Every nation today, whether it's USA, whether it's Japan, whether it's China, whether it's Korea, they do push their national champions today. That's the reality. And in fact, in India, there is this whole. We are probably the last country that will pay our lip service to WTO, World Trade Organization, which is no practically irrelevant in the last several years. The only country where it will be even talked about is in India. Okay, so we have to get out of that mindset somehow that all of those institutions matter. What matters is national sovereignty. What matters is our self reliance. What matters is our real ability to trade on equal terms with the world. And those are the things that matter, not WTO or some dead institutions, WHO, for example, another one. So, really, we shouldn't be paying attention to institutions that are irrelevant today. We did not make them irrelevant. They were made irrelevant by maybe course of history, you can say. Then why should we be paying respect to them? But that's why it is important to understand where the national economies are heading today. It is about national sovereignty, self-reliance, all of those themes today, and that's where we have to invest in domestic technology creation, technology adoption, all of this. At the same time, globally, we have to trade on equal terms. I'm all for trade, but trade on equal terms. Equal terms means trade that cannot be weaponized against us.
Absolutely, that's a great point to make. I just want to ask you this last question. I'm in the valley, and I've met a couple of people during the day. And one feedback that I've got from everybody is that there are lots of Indian origin founders who are building their third, fourth startup in the valley. But when you talk to them about the Indian ecosystem, they obviously have a lot of things to say. That how a lot of things are broken. The research is not adequate. The VC ecosystem is not adequate. There are lots of other bottlenecks which stop people from sort of innovating at the same scale as they are able to do in the Silicon Valley. So that's my one part of the question. The second part of my question is that, even when this movement is going on, we have seen just a handful, or in fact not even a handful, just a couple of companies who the government can really bank on, which is, Zoho and Map My India, right? And there are actually no other companies that the government could pick out and really say, okay, these are our national champions, to quote you, and we are going to push you. How does India change this?
Yeah. So the on the first point, about 7 8 years ago, uh, the Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Sri Chandrababu Naidu came to Silicon Valley. I was in the audience. I was invited, and I also met him. And he made a very good speech where he said, he reminded, this was well before all of this current stuff, right? It was 7 8 years ago. He said, uh, if never, wherever you are, you're prospering, you're doing well, I'm so happy for all of you. Never forget your motherland, because if your motherland is not doing well, you will not gain respect here. You will not get respect. He said this, okay? And 2025, isn't that true? Absolutely. I want to challenge the people who tell you this. Do you think you will gain respect? You will get respect in wherever you are in 5 years if your motherland, your homeland did not do well? And this is actually an important question to ask. So we can complain, we can say all about what is going on in India, but the truth is, if we don't build up our nation, wherever we go, we will not find respect. That's the truth. However successful we are. This is the great point Sri Chandrababu Naidu made, and I always remember that point. I always quote this. So that's why it's important that we build it up. That's the first one. Regardless of, there will be always minor hurdles, there will be hurdles along the way. Entrepreneurs know how to face hurdles. You overcome them. That's the whole idea. That's the idea of entrepreneurship. That's the first one. And then the second point, why there are not many more companies. It is also, until recently, it's not the lack of talent. It's not that not many people, companies can do this. Actually, many companies could do this. It is that we unfortunately uh, worshipped a certain imported ideology, a philosophy of this. We assumed that whatever worked in Silicon Valley would work naturally in India as well. That was true. That assumption was there in the Bangalore ecosystem a lot. I noticed it. I've said many times. This is not the first time I'm saying it. I've said this 5 years ago. You have to think different here when you are in India. And what is different? That you cannot assume that ready-made talent will be available in whatever area that you're working on. You have to build up the talent, right? That's all the whole idea of developing. And the second problem is you are importing the value systems of, every 3 4 years people can move around, and that works in Silicon Valley to some extent because the companies could get acquired and the talent pool goes to a Google or Apple or somebody, right? Well, there are not big acquiring companies in India for talent could accumulate like that. Yeah, not yet. You have to build up those things again. That's where the national champions, all of that arise. So, in other words, without creating that gravitational attraction point, you cannot have all the things floating around like that too. So that is why the Silicon Valley, remember, it's not only about startups. It's about the gravitational force of Apple and Google and Facebook, all of them are there, right? Where if without building up those companies, we cannot have all of the smaller companies, that ecosystem. And our assumption is that this whole universe of smaller companies by itself would produce it. It does not. That's a problem.
Mr. Manikan told us that Zoho would never sell user data to third parties, or it would never show ads to users. So I just wanted to understand, with this being your principle, what would exactly your revenue model be for the app? If you could just elaborate on that bit.
Uh, Arata app will get a lot of integrations, for example, payment services, and there's a lot of potential. And we are looking at, first we want to scale up the app, roll out the end-to-end encryption, all of this. First the basics and refine the user experience. And we are actually doing a lot of user group testing right now with non-tech people, people like my mother. How does she use the app? All of that testing we are doing. Only then we will take up all of these integrations. So revenue is not a current priority. We want to make sure the app is perfect, bulletproof, and lots of crores, tens of crores of users can use it. That's the goal right now.
Right. Also, sir, we've had desi apps like Koo, for example, who also got a lot of government push, and then unfortunately it couldn't deal with the challenges that come with user-generated content, and it had to shut shop. So, what is the lesson that Indian entrepreneurs can learn from a chapter like Koo?
Yeah. If you are going to go for B2C, you better have some strong either foundation from a company like Zoho. We could afford to go B2C now, or you have lots of capital, one of the two. And you have anyway a long term picture, because you cannot make money quickly on these. You have to have a maybe a 10-year horizon. That's really the lesson.
So, sir, with this increased proximity with the government, if I may put it that way, does Zoho plan to revive its semiconductor foray? I understand that you didn't find a technology partner, and those plans were, laid down. But do you plan to revive those plans and, eventually make a semiconductor foray?
Uh, right now, we're hyper focused on our current priorities. I don't think I can. I'm working. We are working so hard right now. I think this is not the time to expand our focus right now. Okay. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.